So today we're going to look at how Qualtrics works and how you will want to sign on to help you put together your methods projects. So you're going to want to use your email and password that you used to sign in to Baruch. Now, when I sign in, it's going to work right away, but if you've never signed into Qualtrics before, it's going to ask you to sign in for the first time, and you'll want to say yes. You've never signed in before, and then you'll have to accept uh, a contract that you just agreed to, and then you can sign in. So if you put in your user ID that you use at Baruch when you log into their computers, and the password that you use when you log into their computers, and it'll ask you once again if you haven't signed on for the first time. So just agree to everything it says, and then sign in. Okay, so this is where you have your projects. Now yours should be empty. You won't have all these up here. But you want to create a project, and you can easily do this by pressing create a project. Call this practice project. And once you create it, you'll see that it opens. Now, before we go into the techniques for setting up your questionnaires, if you go back to My Projects, because you're working as a group, you should be able to add your group members as collaborators. So if you press the My Projects at the top and go back to the main page, you'll see the title of your project, and there's an action up here. So you'll want to be able to share your project. And how you'll do that is you'll type in their Baruch name. So in this case, we'll type in your professor because you'll want to add her as well. And there you'll see Angela Pinto at Baruch, and you'll also see it with the hashtag. Now, in my experience, the hashtag works better for sharing. Sometimes it gets some kinks, and if you just use the email, it won't work as well. So you would add her. And I'm not going to send her a message to tell her I'm adding her because this is practice, but you will want to probably say, the members of your group and what project it is. Oh, and then apparently I have to send her a message, so we'll try that again. Okay. You want to make sure that they have all these buttons clicked as well, so everyone is able to edit, view the report, activate, copy, and distribute the study. And then there's a button down here that you actually can't see, maybe. There we go. To save it. So that's how you'll want to save it. I'm going to remove her because this isn't a real project, but you would not want to remove your partners. You just save it at the bottom. Now, once you get your project together, you'll probably start with an informed consent. So an informed consent is going to have a multiple question where you have two choices to agree or disagree. So here's where you'd put all the text. Now there's probably a template that was already given to you. So you'll just want to copy and paste that template in there and then change it to your name and your study, so the specifics of what you're doing. Excuse me. And then you want to edit the choices. So make it agree and disagree. Whoop. Or in your case, you might, since you want to make sure you use participants who are 18 and over, so you want to say agree and over 18, oh, not over, and 18 years old or older. And then disagree or under 18 years old. So these are the two options. Now, if someone is either disagreeing to participate in your study or they're under 18 years of old, you do not want them to complete your study. So you're going to use something called skip logic. So while it's still clicked on this question, I add the skip logic function. And all I want is if they select this option, I want it to go right to the end of the survey. So now anyone who disagrees will not be taking the survey. Now to add a new question, you can press this here or you can do it from here. If you choose it from here, you can choose what kind of question you want to add. So this is just text, so there's no question. If you want to add a graphic, you can add it here. Multiple choice, matrix, open-ended questions, slider, etc. So you might want text and graphic, in which case you can use the descriptive text. And you have this option of rich content editor. And this is where you can also insert a graphic, a movie if you're going to show a clip, or an audio clip, if you want a file to attach, or a link. So all these options are available under the rich content editor. You also can change the style of font if you want to change the color or size. So that's easy enough. Just highlight it and make it bolder. Now, if you're going to add an image, it's going to ask you to attach it to Qualtrics. So when you try to upload the image, you'll have to upload it to Qualtrics first. But once you click these buttons, it'll help you go through the process. Now, if you have a bunch of questions with the same anchors, you can use the matrix table, where maybe you have multiple statements that you can post right here. And then if you have the same scales for all those statements, so agree, disagree, you can edit under scale point. They also give you automatic options that you can choose from. So if it's already there, that's nice, but otherwise you can just fill it in yourself. And that's how you would do one question. If it's multiple answer, you can change that as well. So now they can choose more than one answer for a question. Just a single. If it's only one question, you don't want to use the matrix table. You can just use the regular multiple choice table. And they have options, horizontal, vertical, how you want to present your information. Now, if it's a question you want to make sure that they answer, you'll want to press this force response button. And if you have a lot of questions and you want them to answer it all, you can actually highlight all these questions at once and hit the force response button, so you don't have to do it individually. And that's going to force the participant to answer that question in order to move on. Some groups might be using a timer. First thing about the timer is that it's based on the page, not the question. So notice here I have 4 questions. Maybe I want to split this up to different pages. So after this question, I want a page break. And so when it presents on the screen, it'll show these together, and then this will be shown on the next page. So if I want this timed on this page, I will actually add a timer. And so if I add another question, I go all the way down, there's this timing option. So the participant won't see this, but it'll actually time how long they're on that page. And if you want them to auto advance, you want the page to automatically move on, you can choose how many seconds that it should auto advance. So if you only want them exposed to these questions or this stimuli for 2 seconds, then you would just put 2 seconds. You can also make it so that they see it, they can see the countdown, so they know they only have 2 seconds. Or, it can not be visible. Now, for your second project, you're going to have a manipulation. For a manipulation, you'll want a manipulation in a separate block. So if you have a manipulation in one block, I'm going to call this manipulation. So whatever's in this block, one group is going to get. So maybe they'll get this question. And then you want another group of people to get a different manipulation. And I don't know if you're giving them questions or maybe you're just exposing them to a stimulus that's different. But when you have your dependent variable, what you're measuring, you usually, in most cases, want to give them the exact same scale. Now, in some cases, not. Sometimes the dependent variable might be altered slightly. So for example, if I'm asking this manipulation, I'm asking them about themselves. And if in this manipulation, I'm asking them about the average person, then my scale might be different, where I'm asking them to rate something for themselves. In that case, if I only want this group to answer a certain type of dependent variable, I can leave it in this same block. And if I want this group to answer questions that are slightly different, then I can put it specific for this block. But if you have questions that are going to be exactly the same, irrelevant of which manipulation they get, you want to put that in a third block. And then how are you going to make it so that some participants get some questions and others get the second set of questions? So you go to the survey flow and you add an element and you want randomizer. You only want them to get one of these elements. So you're going to move your manipulation here. And then I say I only want people to get one of these options. I want to evenly present it so everyone has the same likelihood of getting either option. And then I put my dependent variable back down here. So the person's going to get this question up here, then they're going to get one of these two blocks, then they're going to get this dependent variable. So that's how you create a manipulation so that different groups of people get different responses. And you want to save that. So that's the lecture for today to get you started in Qualtrics. There's many other options you can do, so you can play around with it. There's also a manual if you have any additional questions that will help you answer those questions. So good luck to you and good luck on your project.